Hi everyone, this is Lean and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today I have a Mother's Day card that I wanted to share with you using the Mama Bear stamp set. This stamp set is super adorable and it was released in April, as in, well, still this month, but previously this month. And so far I haven't shared any inspiration with it, and I know it's a shocker. Normally, I'm immediately there with all the critters, the cute stuff from Crafty Meraki. But there was so much fun in this latest release that I couldn't decide what to show you first. This card was a bit of a DIY project, as you will see later on. I tried to keep it really simple, but also to use a lot of symbolism. So therefore, well, it took me a bit. Now, I'm going to use the koalas from this stamp set, the Mama Bear stamp set, and I wanted to do some Noline coloring. First of all, Noline coloring with the koalas. I wanted to use the same color family, all warm grays, which is not necessarily easy to really let both the images stand out, but I'm showing you how I did it. And so, to get that Noline coloring, I used Ink on 3 Fadeout Noline Coloring Detail ink. Now normally I would draw in those details from the eyes myself with a micron fine liner or a Copic multi-liner or anything like that, really fine pen to just add them already, because once you get to layer your Copics from time to time, it's really hard to see those details from those images or where specifically they were intended by the illustrator. So therefore I love adding it first. Now these eyes were so cute but also quite detailed, and I had no clue how I was going to be able to do that myself. So I took the time to mask off all of the rest of the image and just keep those eyes open, then stamp it out with black ink. As you probably saw, I used washi tape. Why? Because I personally find it easier to mask off parts of the stamp itself than to mask off the paper. And with the washi tape you can really tear in small pieces, you can bend it a bit if you need to. So that was the easiest way for me. And then of course the part starts where you take your time, you take your Copics, or if you want to do watercoloring, you take whatever you want to color with and you start coloring. Something that I can really recommend is to take your time. Start with your darkest marker to line out where you want to have your shadows, and just do not lose any of the intended areas or the differences sometimes between the paws and the body or anything depending on the critter that you're coloring. So I really took my time, went over it of course. Most of the time I need at least 2 layers, so that's what I did as well. And then of course I decided to go for a darker one and a lighter one, a lighter koala, to really have already some sort of a difference between both of the images this way. But then later on, since this is one color family, it's really sometimes it's just going to blend into each other if you don't have enough contrast or anything like that. So it's really hard, I must admit. Personally, I find it really hard, so this is also a one and only card. I will not recreate this card because I love how it turned out and I'm really glad with it, but I know how much effort it took, so depending on that, and even if it didn't took a lot of time, I just don't like recreating. That's also a fact. But do help me, something that can also help you in ways, depending on even coloring with watercolors or markers, you can always add another kind of medium if the paper can handle it on top. And I am going to help myself today on this card by also using colored pencils. I have Faber-Castell colored pencils. Wow, difficult to pronounce here. I have those pencils, I don't use them enough, but it's also something that you can really use to help you add details, or for example fur. Once you start adding color pencils, personally I find that it softens the image, and you can also get the texture kind of vibe with pencils. So that's why I like it. But also sometimes you just need it to go into those tiny areas, or just to emphasize some things on top. So definitely take whatever you have at home. Maybe you can combine things and it will just be a gorgeous end result because of the combination. So in case you want to revisit color combinations here, including color pencils, because I can show the caps of the markers, but with the pencils it's really hard. So I have listed it on my blog post, and I'm listing every time in the description box towards the blog post as well. Hopefully that's helpful. So that's what I'm doing here. As I said, taking those pencils, I'm helping me by emphasizing shadows, by helping me to get blends better. If you have, for example, markers, but there is a big gap, you can always do the tip to tip. If that doesn't work, then maybe you have colored pencils or something else to color with that sort of has that mid-tone that you need. So definitely try to look around, and if you don't have colored pencils but you have kids or a nephew or a niece or anything like that, then maybe they have the pencils that you need. So don't immediately buy stuff. Maybe it's just around the corner. So here also I'm trying to add a bit more shadowing to, well, make it a bit more dramatic here, the bigger koala. And so I'm just working my way through my pencils. You also don't necessarily need 5 more pencils. You can also use 1 pencil and just differentiate in pressure that you add. With pencils, that really makes a difference already. So maybe just 1 pencil is enough for you to just add those details that you still want, or just to emphasize some areas, anything like that. Now, I took my time, as I said, so the coloring really, it takes quite a bit of time in this video, but then once I was happy with the coloring, I took my scissors to cut this image out. There are matching dies, I just didn't have them at the time that I was making this card. So fussy cutting is always an option. If you know me, you know that I don't like fussy cutting, but it was doable. I wouldn't say that for all of the images. It's also a reason why I chose the koalas, thinking about what will I be able to fussy cut myself. I know my limitations, and fussy cutting is one of them. As you probably know, we have another Lean in this design team. She's also from Belgium. I love her, and she loves fussy cutting, something that is still mind-blowing for me. But everyone his personal preferences, of course, and I am jealous about her crazy talented skills with the fussy cutting. Okay, about the DIY project now. For the background, I decided to take an A2 size panel, and I wanted to use this sentiment, home is where mom is. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have a die that is big enough to fit behind this image to create some sort of a window that will also represent a house. So I decided to draw it in myself using this well, rectangular ruler, and so it was a bit of a fiddle. It wasn't perfect. I tried to fix it, I made it worse, and I had to fix it later on again. So here I just drew in a simple house kind of shape. If I would have looked in my dies, I would have found a square. I know that I have it somewhere. I didn't have a triangle that I don't have in my dies anywhere, so that I couldn't use. Maybe I could have been thrifty with some other dies, but I wasn't. So I took my craft knife, a tool that I really love using for certain things, but I am terrified of using it for cutting things because I'm just not a really good cutter myself. Trimming things straight is difficult. Fussy cutting things is difficult, and then we have, of course, the craft knife, and well, cutting things out, it's difficult. So well, again, I know my weaknesses, or weaknesses is not really a thing, but it's not a strength here. So I tried, and in the end I really like the end result, so that's the most important thing. But what I'm doing here is I am creating a window shaped of a house, so that home is where mom is, will be represented by this window. And then behind this panel I will put the die cut panel from the Crafty Plaid Meraki Para-Dies. I love this plaid, it's intricate, it's gorgeous. I run it 3 times through my die cutting machine. It worked like a charm. It might be that you need an extra shim or a metallic shim or anything like that to help you. It's really intricate, so just keep that in mind when you're rolling it through your die cutting machine. I just do it a few times to be sure, and that worked for me, so definitely check it out. You know your own die cutting machine, the limitations of your die cutting machine, so keep that in mind while, well, every time you're using an intricate die just like that. So here I wasn't happy with the angle that I had, so I tried to fix it. The fix made it worse, but that I will talk about later on why I found that worse. But here I'm just making sure that I get that house as simple, as straight as possible. Okay, having that, let's take that panel and just stamp out that sentiment right below the house. And I just love this sentiment. I think it's my favorite from this whole set. Now here we have that gorgeous plaid behind, and as you can see, the angle of the plaid, as is logical, is 90 degrees. But my roof from the house wasn't 90 degrees because I fixed it somehow. So I wasn't happy with that. You can definitely leave it, it's not a big deal. But it was bothering me, and whenever something is bothering you and you're not convinced, try to fix it in a way. Don't throw it away immediately, because there are ways to fix it depending on what the issue is. So I added first the panel on top of my card base. Then I wanted to add this panel on top of the card base to see how big of the damage was. So I did that, just adding some adhesive in the back here, going to center it on top of my card base, and then I decided to add the image as well to sort of see how I could maybe tuck it away or not. I'm using some thin foam squares, my favorite adhesive, in the back of these images. Well, this image, it's one image. And then I added it on the right corner, something, or right side of the house. Something that I like doing is looking how the images are facing, or the biggest in this case, and just put it on that side so that it is looking towards the other part that is left of the card. Okay, so then the idea came. Let's just make a roof. A roof 90 degrees, so I'm using the same ruler here. Just using my craft knife again. Really outside of the comfort today, but I'm really glad with how it turned out. So 90 degrees here. I needed some space to tuck away the area where the roof wasn't in the right angle or degree, or however you want to call it. My English is not sufficient for this conversation. So I went for a few millimeters further. I didn't measure it. Used the same ruler again and cut it. Then I went back towards my card and decided how far it could overhang, and just took my pencil here, draw it in, and then just gonna cut the excess off. Doing it all with the craft knife, I am really proud. I'm really proud. So there are, I'm sure of it, other ways to create this. Definitely have a go at it. Have fun. Use your strengths. Step outside of your comfort zone like me if you want to. I would love to see what you create. But I'm really glad with the stamp set. I don't know about you, but every year I am with the struggle that I have an idea for my mother. Then I have my mother-in-law. The man here isn't really creative or anything. He always forgets about birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those things. It's all about me. It's all up to me to really get things done. And so every time I'm like, oh damn, I need 2 cards, not one. And the one for my mother is going really quickly, and then the one for my mother-in-law is well, it's a pain for me to create because, well, it doesn't go as smoothly as the card for my mother. But this stamp set has so many options, and it is also so great for Father's Day. I just love it. This sentiment wouldn't work for Father's Day, but you can maybe use that or just scratch mom. Like, you can make it a draft kind of version if you want to. Well, many options. To finish it off, I have white, black and gray, which is gorgeous. It's simple, but a pop of color is always welcome, I think. So I just took some red heart sprinkles here. I love red and black, red and white, gray as well. So I just added a few here and there, and then I adhered it with some liquid glue. And that is going to be my card. You can add glossy accents, you can add other embellishments. As you know, Crafty Meraki has a ton of embellishments, all great ones. Definitely have a go with it. Create your own card, your own ideas. I hope that I inspired you in any way with this video and with this card. You can always leave down below in the comments what you think. I would really appreciate that. We are really curious at Crafty Meraki to know your opinions, and we truly appreciate you all being here. So thank you so much for that. I wish you an incredible day, and I'll be back soon. Bye!